Welcome to Blood in the Snow Radio, where we give you the latest news and interviews with the best in Canadian genre cinema. Here are your hosts, Robert Bellamy and Festival Director Kelly Michael Stewart.
And welcome to Bits Radio 2023. This year so far has been amazing, and one of the lovely people from the lab is here. I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Brenna Goodwin-McCabe. I'm a writer and director here with I Can't Go On.
Excellent. I Can't Go On. That's in the festival.
It is, yes. So I have the short playing in the festival. We played opening night, and I'm here at the lab presenting the feature version of it, which we're very excited about.
And I was wondering about when I was watching the short, it's like, I would love to see this as a feature.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we're really excited to be expanding the story into a sort of spiritual sequel, not just a continuation, but sort of a different floor, same kind of horror.
Okay, and the whole premise of that is people finding a body in an elevator.
Yes.
And their interaction with it.
That's right.
What spurred that story?
It's a strange creation. I was living in an apartment complex slated for demolition, and I was watching the kind of rot come in. And at one point, we finally realized that my mother and I, we were the only people left in the building. And then we learned we were the only people left in any of the surrounding buildings. So you could hear the elevators still moving at nighttime. And I started thinking about, oh my God, what if there's someone in the building? This is a large building and we're alone in here. What if there's somebody in another unit? And walking through the halls, kept thinking, what if there's someone in the elevator? What am I going to do if it just opens and there's a person? And I started developing this idea and thinking about the rot and decay of the hallway that was around me. And what if there was a body? And what was I going to do? If I called the police, would they even come to such a weird location in the middle of all this construction? And it became more of a commentary about Vancouver itself, which is where I'm from, and the kind of disrepair that we're seeing in so many different crises, from, ecological crisis happening around us to housing crisis to pandemic crisis, any of these issues where you're seeing something very clearly wrong, and rather than it being a stopping point, everything just kind of continues, which is where our title is coming from.
Step over it kind of thing.
That's right.
That's got to be a weird feeling in itself, being the only people in an apartment building. I know people wish for that sometimes, but to actually have it happen.
Yeah, it was nice. The main condition was like, no wild parties, but, the place is, yours. So
you literally could have a wild party.
We could absolutely. They were just going to tear it down. It was very strange. We could do kind of whatever for a while.
So now the filmmaker in me is going, you have an apartment building all to yourself.
Yeah.
Did you ever take advantage of that?
The amount of regret I face every day for not doing something in this hallway. Now with our short, we built everything for the Crazy Eights challenge in Vancouver.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So everything you see in our short film was built by an incredible production design team helmed by Isabel Baker-Smith. And they did a phenomenal job building this hallway. And as they built it, I'm loving every moment of it, but I'm like, if I had had that hallway, there was nothing happening.
Location.
I could have had the whole building to film in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'd have been kicking myself, too. With it.
Yeah.
Those kind of locations come along once in a lifetime, and if you're not ready, you can't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a point in my life where I was still not quite ready to admit I wanted to be a film director. I was very busy being like, maybe I'll go into opera, or maybe I'll go into, finish my studies with English and see what's happening, and just kind of keeping the DVDs hidden in the closet.
You were still in the closet.
Yeah.
Yes. And I get it, because it is a big step to come out and say, okay, I'm a filmmaker, I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
Because if it's just a hobby, then nobody expects anything of you.
Exactly. Yeah. The second you admit that, it seems strange that every assignment that's creative, I want to make a movie for it. I've made so many movies for French class and so many movies for like my classical studies class that I'm beginning to think that maybe there's something here that is really a passion.
There were those signs.
Yeah. The signs were there the whole time.
So with the lab, you're here to pitch it as a feature?
That's right. Yeah. So I was really grateful that we were able to air on Monday, on the first day, because a lot of the people who got to see the pitch yesterday were able to see the short film. So they kind of knew going in that, we had this body in an elevator, that we were dealing with a set hallway. It was very gothic, a lot of kind of surreal horror in the vein of Guillermo del Toro and David Lynch, who are two of my largest influences in life and work. So I was really grateful to have that opportunity. And then going into the pitch yesterday, I was able to kind of expand that knowledge and talk about a story that's somewhat more autobiographical, but at the same time, rather than a body in an elevator, the horror is now the building itself. So we're watching these very kind of rotting walls happen around her, and kind of much like a body, where instead of it being ghosts that our main character Alice is seeing, she's seeing the memories of her building. So she's seeing these memories walking around her as the building is slowly dying, its memories flashing before her eyes.
That's excellent.
Thank you very much.
It's a cool visual because you love those pitches when you're talking and you see it in your head. Because so many times they're talking and the pitch, it's like, I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
But this literally, I can envision the ghosts.
Yeah, it feels to me, in my head, it feels a bit like Monster House, where, you know, that very early 2000s cartoon where you have this kind of animate house that's kind of a killer. But in this case, it feels a bit like our main character Alice is wandering through just the worst Magic School Bus episode where, you know, she's in the body and the walls and the hallway are the arteries and each unit is an organ and it's kind of sticky and, and rotting and necrotic ooze all over the place.
That's a beautiful reference.
Yes.
Nobody references Magic School Bus.
Not enough people. Yeah, absolutely.
Mrs. Frizzle is the bomb.
Yeah.
I know, just
life goal. Absolutely. If I can dress like Mrs. Frizzle every day on set, then I've done my job right.
So now you had mentioned David Lynch being one of your friends. What other people inspired you and kind of guide what you do?
Yeah, well, if we're talking about people I haven't met, David Lynch is absolutely, Guillermo del Toro as well. One of my most vivid memories was seeing Pan's Labyrinth when I was about 12 or 13, going in with my mom and my grandma and sitting down in a red turtleneck sweater. And I remember that because I spent most of the movie with the turtleneck just creeping over and up towards my nose and then using it to like wipe away all the sobbing that I was doing, and my mom reminding me I had to breathe in order to not make that noise while crying. But watching that movie was absolutely revolutionary for me, and I ended up developing that emotion that I had watching it into my thesis for my Master's of English degree, which I wrote on Frankenstein, which is my favorite novel, and Guillermo del Toro, and specifically Pan's Labyrinth, which is fun now that he's doing Frankenstein, which, you know, would change everything with my research. But so those are the two kind of main filmic inspirations. A lot of my work, I think, stems from surreal kind of works in general. So the title of this film comes from a Samuel Beckett quote in The Unnameable. So talking about I can't go on, I'll go on, which is how he kind of ends his panic attack of a final page.
Okay.
So those are kind of the thematic influences. But real influences, I mean, my parents, both of them, my mom especially living in this environment with me, I think has really gone into the film, and my experience with family and my experience with Vancouver. I think to me, Vancouver, I'm really passionate about Vancouver film, and I'm excited to kind of fight for it to be featured as Vancouver in film, not just to be kind of a placeholder for a lot of different places. I'm excited for it to play itself.
That is true. A lot gets filmed in Vancouver that gets turned into various states or cities, and but it's got beautiful areas. It
is. And, you know, growing up in Vancouver, you would see so many film sets, and going to UBC, especially for my schooling, there was one time where I was late for a final exam because there was a dance number, you know, in the middle of campus with no warning. And it was deeply frustrating to have like smiling people dancing around as you're running for an exam. But that's Vancouver.
Nobody's going to believe that story.
No, nobody's going to believe that there was like a whole choreographed reason for my lateness.
I was on my way when all of a sudden.
Suddenly there was twirling and people were just dancing in the square. I promise it wasn't a flash mob.
Should have just gone with the dog.
Yeah. People believe it in Vancouver.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's a lot going on over there. I know I've recently seen a few horror movie people that are based right into Vancouver, and they thrive in that city. Like,
absolutely,
they don't make it another place.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I'm really excited to see it coming more and more present. I think, you know, as far as filmic identity, Vancouver is this really interesting space that can be so many different places, absolutely, and will continue to do so as it should. But, you know, there are so many interesting stories happening in Vancouver and so many interesting horrors that are happening that, yes, they are international, yes, they are Canadian, but, you know, especially this film to me, it is about, you know, something happening in light of Vancouver. And our goal is to share a complex Canadian story in light of Vancouver, just sort of amplified by the horror genre.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So do you have goals? Like, what would be your dream project?
Oh, I have many goals. I'm a Gothic girl at heart, and I really love media adaptation. It's what I focused on for my studies. So, our short version is in many ways an adaptation of Cassandra and the Trojan Horse. So in our short, the woman that finds the body, her name is Cassandra, and the body in the elevator becomes a kind of Trojan horse, something that she can see and not be believed that this is an issue that everybody should be dealing with. This feature is kind of an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. It's an adaptation of Frankenstein. Alice is kind of a Victor Frankenstein character, which is really fun to play with. So, I think as far as adaptations and dream projects, Del Toro isn't going to beat me to Frankenstein. Unfortunately, I think he's got a good headway on that. But I would really love to do like a Phantom of the Opera miniseries.
Oh, nice.
I love adaptations of Phantom of the Opera. There's been one for every 10 years, essentially. And there are some phenomenal ones, and each one is trying to define itself in comparison and also in contrast to earlier adaptations, from Andrew Lloyd Webber to the original in the 1920s to the one from 1989 where Carlotta gets her head thrown into a soup tureen. There are these amazing moments.
That is very true. And it's interesting, too, how certain stories mimic other stories. Like you talk Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
It's like Beauty and the Beast is literally Phantom of the Opera for kids.
Yeah. Absolutely. And before it was Beauty and the Beast, it was a German story. And before that, it was like all of these things bleed together into these amazing stories that kind of go across borders. And even I always find it interesting when you find the same stories in places that you can't really figure out how they would have possibly had the same story, where there was no interaction necessarily. Like, I used to be obsessed with the idea of dragons as a kid, and the fact that each culture had a dragon that may have not been meeting one another at that time, but probably dinosaur
stories.
Bones. But yeah, it was an interesting idea as a kid.
That would be cool. Any thoughts of, turning that into a story?
I love dragons. I love fantasy films. I think if one day I can get to a point where I get to work with like the Jim Henson Company or something, making a fantasy film kind of in the vein of Labyrinth, then I will have made it.
Very good choice.
Thank you very much. That's my favorite film. It's Pan's Labyrinth and Labyrinth. So if you make a film with the name Labyrinth somewhere in there, you've got at least one ticket sold to me.
There we go. That's my next project.
There you go. Labyrinth something, Labyrinth. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting.
Thank you so much for having me.
And good luck with the lab.
Thank you. We're really excited to be presenting the I Can't Go On feature and expanding this Gothic story for a new age.
Yeah. If you get a chance to see it, I know short films kind of they do a festival run and then they seem to disappear.
We're hoping that won't be the case. That would be awesome. We're excited. We've got some amazing reception to this. We recently won Best Foreign Short Award at La Femme International Film Festival.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so we're hoping to visit some more horror networks. We have an Instagram account. It's I Can't Go On Film. I think there's a period between each of those. Can't go on, all of those. And I have Instagram as well, and we'll be posting all updates. My Instagram, I think it's just at Brenna Goodwin-1.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been lovely.
Got it.
Join us next time for Blood in the Snow Radio. Bits Radio is a production of Three Evil Cats Productions in association with the Blood in the Snow Canadian Film Festival. For more information and to listen to other episodes, visit bloodinthesnow.ca and tweet us at BitsFilmFest. Music by Jen Gorman, produced and edited by Kelly Michael Stewart. I am Eduardo Correa Lima.